Hi. So, I want to try to make this video as quick as possible because my throat hurts. So, I was at the doctor earlier. I have strep. Anyway, hurts to talk. If you got to turn the volume up, turn it up. So, I was going to do a Facebook Live, but I'm not qualified to do that. Anyway, so to the people that know me, you know who I am. To the people who don't know me and happen to find this video somehow, hi, I'm Desiree. I am a pediatric nurse and I am currently only 23 years old. That being said, I'm going to talk about what happened as a follow-up video to the one that I posted previously about what was going on with my mom, because when I made a video before, I put it on YouTube. Got a couple comments on it, and people were wanting an update on what happened, what was going on, because Mom was still alive. Mom passed on April 14th, 2020. And it's been very hard to talk about it. And I know I keep putting on Facebook that I want to update people on what happens. That way no one gets it twisted on what actually happened. Mom was 55 years old and was diagnosed with Huntington's disease. What Huntington's disease is a brain disorder that is genetic, that you're born with, and it slowly, I'm trying to think of the right word. It pretty much slowly eats away at your brain in the center, and it slowly takes away your ability to function, your ability to walk, talk, swallow, everything. And usually when you have a problem with walking or having like sudden movements, they call it chorea. So you might hear me say that word a lot. That's what that means. Usually with Huntington's, it comes from a parent, and it's 50-50 shot of being passed on to the kids. That does not mean if you have two kids, only one of them is going to get it. It means that each child you have has a 50-50 shot of getting this disease. Me and my brother both have a 50-50 shot of having this. It usually starts when someone's pretty young, in their 20s, and so far we both have been feeling pretty fine. Does not mean we're not going to get tested, but so far we're doing okay. Yes, I don't know where to start with this. My whole life went downhill in February till April, so 3 months basically, and I was in a living hell for 3 months because I had no idea what to do. This was mid-quarantine, by the way, when everybody was just starting to quarantine. It was like at the beginning to middle-ish, right around there. I had been quarantined before that because of what was going on with Mom. So Mom had always been having issues with sudden movements, like fidgety movements. Like she developed like finger twitching that she couldn't do. It was something more like this. Like she couldn't control that. That was just happening by itself. Then it started going to her feet. She would be tapping her feet a lot and she wouldn't be the one in control of it. And then it started going up her leg, and then she started having problems walking. It looked more like a high step, like she was walking through tall grass. She was not happy, and I could tell. She had started having issues with her memory, like just little things that you would see in Alzheimer's, which is why they compare this disease to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and such like that, because it's a mixture. It seems like a mixture of all those. She started having memory problems with forgetting where she put things. That's not a big issue. But when she started forgetting where she lived, that was a massive, whoa, what's going on thing. This is not one of those little oh, I accidentally drove by my driveway moments. This was, we stopped our car 3 houses before our house, and she looked at me and said, I don't know where our house is. That is not something. I want to hear coming from the person driving my car, who is stopped in the middle of the road. There was nobody coming. It was like later at night, thank God. This happened twice. What else? She, before all that, started having personality issues, not necessarily having like double personality. This is where people might say that she was an ass, because it kind of made her that way. It changed her mood. It made her depressed. It overall made her feel like she was alone. And she always was seeking a confirmation of, are you on my side? And I never understood what that meant. Mind you, this was when I was in nursing school to when I was in my first job time span. So, all of that was happening. She never would mention it to her doctor. Don't know why. Always told her to do it. Never did it. I started assuming she had Huntington's when I was in nursing school and I had just graduated, because we had learned about it. Now, Huntington's is a very rare disease. It's not something that like a lot of people know about or are really diagnosed with. I was reading about it, and what I was reading kind of started looking like what I was seeing from her. So when she started having issues like driving and stuff like that, I knew it was time that I needed to get her to the doctor, regardless if she wanted to go or not, because by then she was still able to think for herself, but you could tell that she wasn't quite there mentally. So I made a few calls to her doctors and explained what was going on, and that I was concerned for her safety and my safety. She had gotten into a car accident as well, and that's why I was concerned. So we got to the doctor's office, and I had gotten up and I went to the doctor separately, so that way she knew what I wanted her to focus on more than anything else, because my mom also had a problem with her thyroid that made it produce too much, so she had hyperthyroidism, and she would always blame that instead of trying to find out what else was going on. So whenever she went to the doctor, that's all she would ever talk about. So this time when she went to the doctor, I made sure that the doctor understood what I was worried about, and I gave her my list. I had a whole list of things written down that I was like, this is not normal. This is not what she normally is, or what type of person she is. And she took me very seriously, because I sought her out. I went into her office and was like, we need to talk. So if you're ever in a position where you need to do that, go for it. There's just so much to talk about and so little time that I have to do this in. So after that, she ran some tests. She did some memory tests. Mom didn't do too well. Mom was not too happy about that. She thought the doctor was picking on her. No. They tried to give her a couple different meds that might help, but she automatically was like, go see your neurologist. Mom has a neurologist because it is now 6 years, but then it was 5 years ago. She had a stroke when they took brain scans of her stroke. However, this is where I am now very like, did you really look at that? Or did you just say, oh, she's fine? Because on that brain scan, it showed little white dots. Now, medical people in my Facebook, when someone has a stroke, it doesn't show up like that normally. You normally don't have multiple places that show up when you have a stroke. Usually it's one spot where you can tell it blocked off brain, like the blood flow to the brain, not multiple little itty bitty spots here and there, which is what confused me then. So fast forward to 5 years later, when the doctor's telling us to go see the neurologist again. See the same guy. We go get a brain scan. He says, oh, everything looks fine. Don't think so. But he decided to run his blood tests and everything just to see what else could possibly be going on. There is I think it's Williams disease or something like that, that has where if you have too much high concentration of metals in your body, it can produce the same effects. So she was getting tested for that, that. February, the first week in February, she went to work fine, came home, don't know how she drove home in the first place, and was constantly repeating herself. The same sentence, would not say anything else. Concerned massively now because I'm thinking, did she have another stroke? Good news, doctors aren't open on weekends. So Monday, we immediately took her to the doctor, earliest they could get us in. They took one look at her, said go to the hospital. We went to the Lewis Hospital, and the neurologist there basically wasted our time and said she was fine, because he was like, oh, we're looking at her brain scans and she's fine, but you should go see her normal neurologist. What? I'm sorry, you not doing your job. Why? Anyway, so we went back to her neurologist, and he basically was saying the same thing, that he couldn't see anything wrong. So this is where I'm pissed, because it's just me doing most of this work. Side note, my dad's a truck driver. He can't be home all the time. He comes home on weekends. My brother also was working, and I had to stay home with her. Get into more of that later. Anyway, so me being frustrated and torn to all ends because this is not normal and I don't know what to do, I looked at that doctor and I said, I don't believe you. Pull up the one from 5 years ago and prove me wrong, please. Took them 5 minutes, but they were able to pull up the one from 5 years ago and the one that she had done presently, as in brain scan, as in MRI. Not sure if I made that clear. So we did that, and she had a whole center of her brain that was gone. How do you miss that? Even my dad, who has no idea what he's looking at, has never done anything medical related in his life, looked at that and said, what the hell is that? So that's when he actually was taking everything that I said seriously. So after that, we did the Huntington's test, which is a genetic test, which is expensive as all hell. And we got that back on February 14th. So Valentine's Day is when we got that test back. Valentine's Day, Mom got diagnosed with Huntington's. How they do that is Huntington's is a rogue progressive gene that grows past what is like the normal amount of proteins on that one gene. So you can have Huntington's but have different severities of it depending upon how many more proteins are grown on that one gene. So hers was in the 40s somewhere, which is way beyond normal. So she was confirmed had Huntington's. And at this point, Mom was no longer Mom. Mom was a safety hazard to her and myself and my brother and anybody who came into my house. And this is why. Not because of anything that we were doing, but because of what she thought was going on. She had symptoms of schizophrenia where she thought there were people in the house that weren't there. She thought there were people in her backyard that weren't there. At one point, she did walk down my driveway thinking she was having a full-blown conversation with my best friend who was not there. What else? A lot of shit happened. I don't even know where to go from here. We had to change the locks on our doors because she started getting out of the house at like 2 in the morning. Mind you, this is February, when it's still pretty cold outside. She would go outside without a coat, without shoes, without socks on. She's gonna get sick. So we ended up having to lock the doors, but we had to change the deadbolt lock because she was able to unlock the door and get out. So we had to change it to a key. Now she can't get out. She tried getting out the window, so we had to duct tape the window. Um, on St. Patty's Day, she forgot who I was, had no idea who I was. She thought I was some strange kid in her house, and she even called my dad and was like, who is this strange kid? Speaking of calling on phones, she had a weird obsession with the phone and would always be trying to call somebody for no reason. She just wanted to call them and talk about how there's strange people in her house. It didn't matter. She at one point thought she was talking to my cousin who lives in North Carolina when she's in fact talking to the curtain in my kitchen. At one point she had turned around and said to me that I was scheduled to die, and that she even specifically told me what time, and it was that day. Now, if you don't think that's creepy, you're strange, because that freaked me the hell out. I don't know if this woman was going to try to turn around and make it happen, or if she was expecting it to happen from some invisible person that I don't see. Time came and went, and she looked at me and was like, oh, I guess we got to reschedule it. I'm like, what? My voice is really starting to hurt. All right, I'm going to just try to hurry up and wrap this up. So it's getting pretty close to April. We've been to the hospital in Milford one time for a whole week now. And it was because I had to call an ambulance because she would not get up off the floor. And she was crawling on the floor on her hands and knees and crying. And at this point, I had called them because I had no idea what to do at this point. What am I supposed to do about this? It's quarantine. I am in my house by myself with her most of the time. I have my brother who can help me sometimes. He's not really medically inclined, because at this point I was a nurse. I had took my boards. I was a nurse and I was working. I had to take time off of work because of this. And I had no idea what to do. So I had called the hospital, and that was that. She spent a whole week there. They were doing their own tests, and she had another brain scan done. And it was no different than the one she had done in December, that basically her neurologist was like, yeah, she's got something wrong. So in the hospital, she had to have restraints put on twice because of how violent she got. This is where I got pissed off at the hospital, because the paramedics, when they showed up, she kind of snapped out of what was going on, and they saw kind of a semi-normal part of her, how her mind was functioning, so they thought she was okay. She had told the paramedics that she had a brain tumor. They asked me to confirm this. I said she does not have a brain tumor. They came in and told the ER nurses that it was a behavioral issue. I'm like, excuse me? Very pissed at this point. No, my mom is not taking a tantrum fit. And I had taken videos of everything that was happening so far. And I had looked at these nurses and I said, this is a problem. It needs to be fixed if it can be fixed, because I have videos. I don't know what you need to see, but this is a problem that you guys need to be on point about, because she will get violent. And they were like, oh, no, we believe you. I don't know if it was busy in the ER, but I barely saw anybody or heard anybody. She started getting very violent in that bed. She had taken the zipper off my dad's coat, and not just the little flappy part, the whole thing, and ripped it right off. He has arthritis. His hands are swollen to the point where he can't even take his wedding band off. She ripped that right off his finger. They had to put restraints on her because she started fighting with the nurses. You want to tell me again that this is behavioral and not something that's a mental health issue? Anyway, there are some meds that we were giving her to try to calm her down. I gave her melatonin to try to calm her down. My God, no. That was the worst decision ever. It made her hyper as hell. I've never seen this woman run or jump in my entire life, and she ran and jumped around our house. She jumped on the couch. She jumped on her bed. I've never seen this woman jump in my life. And I'm just... Fast forward to April. We've had hospice in the house for about a month and a half now. And I've been calling them and trying to get somebody to get me some form of like Ativan gel or something so that way I can rub it on her back to get her to calm down when she gets violent. Why? Because at this point, Mom was no longer taking meds orally. She would not eat them. I could no longer put them in any drinks that she was drinking. I could no longer put them in any food because Mom had stopped eating and drinking anything. She had made claims that they changed her voice and that it made her evil. At this point, my mom is mentally gone. It's no longer my mom. That's devastating because at this time, I was 22 years old, dealing with this mostly by myself. Let that sink in. I was taking her to the doctors. I spent the whole week in the hospital with her. When she wouldn't sleep, which she barely ever slept, I never slept. If she was sleeping, I was sleeping. If she wasn't, I wasn't. She would be awake for days on end, so I was awake for days on end because I wasn't the one working. My brother was. In April, the week before Mom passed, I could tell it was coming because she was only 64 pounds. She was no longer eating anything. I had bought like Hershey Kisses, M&Ms, anything, just like the giant containers to get her to eat them because she was doing that. Then she no longer ate anything. And I had no idea what to do. I had no other help besides that. And when it came time where she started needing morphine, I was the one that had to give it to her. I was usually the one that gave her meds and everything. So I couldn't experience this from the perspective of a daughter. I had to experience this from the perspective of a daughter and a nurse because I had to take care of my mother when hospice couldn't. They had to send 2 people out to our house because Mom had gotten violent to the point where they would not accept her into the hospice center itself. Mom passed in our house on April 14th. With me sitting next to her. And I was holding her hand. And it kills me because all she would ever say to me is, help me. And it kills me because I had to sit there and tell her that I couldn't. I had to tell her there was nothing that I could do. There was no meds that were helping her. There was nothing that I could do to help her feel better. Because how do you give meds to somebody who won't take them? All Mom wanted that last week in her life was to go to church and eat some goddamn pizza. I I got her the pizza she wanted. I couldn't take her to church. We used to go to church. We used to go to a church that we were there for years we used to go to a church for years. One single church. We had been at that church for years. Had talked with the families there, had eaten with the families, had prayed with the families. Not once during this entire escapade did I ever receive a message from anyone offering help or support or prayers for me. Not once. And that church knows who they are. I'm this close to saying who they are because I am fed up with protecting people who think they're special and deserve everything good in this world when they aren't. But I'm not going to be that person right now. So, that is a shortened, sweet version of what happened with Mom. What's going on with me and my brother, we're going to get tested within the next year or so. I'm planning on getting tested when I'm 25. I don't know what age he wants to get tested by, but I am taking precautions. I am doing things that are helping myself out along with him. I'm reading more. I'm doing a lot more artistic stuff on the side. I'm keeping busy with work. I'm just trying to keep my brain mentally healthy, but it's really hard because I had been diagnosed with PTSD, and it's not very hard to see why. When I say Mom got violent to the point where she had bitten my brother and attempted to bite me. She bit him, and thank God he had a coat on when she bit him. She bit a hole in his coat, took out a good chunk of fabric, and he had a quarter-sized bruise on his arm. When I say my mom was not mentally there, my mom was not mentally there. So, that's what I wanted to update everybody on. This disease is not a joke. This disease is not something anybody should want to have. This disease does not have the attention it deserves because there is no cure for this disease. None. And it's awful because it should be. And it doesn't affect just older people either. It affects younger people. They have juvenile Huntington's disease, and it's awful because some of them don't even make it to their teenage years. So yeah, that's basically why I was posting everything on Facebook saying that I was going through hell, because quite basically was at the age of 22 by myself, almost. Thank God I had my brother, or else I don't know how I would have survived with it. Thank God I had my dad, or else I don't know how I would have survived with it. So yeah, now you kind of know what happened. Now you know what was going on. If anybody wants to comment about anything, go for it. I'll answer all your questions if you have any. I'm going to post this on my Facebook. I'm going to put it on YouTube. I'm going to see if I can post it in the Huntington's group that I'm a part of to see if it can help anybody. I have no idea. I just want people to share it so that way it's something that people are made more aware of, because it's something that needs to be said, so that way it can be further along in I want to say race for a cure, but that doesn't sound right. So that way people are made more aware of this, so that way people are more active in searching for a cure for this, because there currently is nothing. People with this disease die with this disease. It's basically a death sentence. There is no, you will survive. No. No. So, do what you will with this information.